Today's math tag is math tag never escape fractions. There are so many places in real life, and that's the question the students always ask, right? When am I going to use this in real life? When am I going to use this in real life? This is a list of ways I could think of in about 1 minute of how you're going to use fractions in real life. Anytime you share anything with a group of people, you're going to have to divide it into equal parts because you don't want to give one person more than another. If you're going to share something, that's fractions. Cutting a pizza, that's fractions. Anytime you're splitting anything into groups, like on a team, that's fractions. Anytime you weigh anything, you don't think you're going to jump on a scale and automatically weigh a whole pound, right? If you weigh 135 pounds, chances are pretty high that you're going to weigh 135 and 1/8 pound. Humans don't gain one whole pound at a time or lose one whole pound at a time. If you're going to cut up a cake at a party and you have 15 people there, you have one cake that needs to be split equally into 15 pieces so that nobody's complaining about getting the short end of the stick or getting a small piece or the big piece. That's a fraction. If you're going to be a carpenter and somebody's standing on a roof and they're putting roof boards down, they're going to yell down, "Hey, I need a 24 3/8 inch rip of 5/8 inch plywood," and you better know some fractions pretty quick because otherwise you're going to look awful silly and probably get fired if you give them 3/8 inch plywood, or you're off by an 1/8 or a 16th or whatever. So you're pretty much never going to escape fractions. So let's look at the pieces of a fraction. The most important piece of the fraction is the denominator. That is, if you take one whole, how many pieces do you cut it into? That's the bottom number. Bottom number basically tells us what we're working with. Like our 1/4 over here, we have one circle. It's cut into 4 pieces. Our 1/3 unit fraction over here, we have one circle. It's cut into 3 pieces. Our numerator, or our top number, tells us how much out of that whole we have to work with. So over here we have 1/4. That means if we have our circle cut into 4 pieces, we are working with 1 of the pieces. And over here, if we have 2/3, our circle's cut out into 3 pieces and we have 2 of them. So basically our 2/3 right here tells us we have 2 out of 3 possible pieces of one whole. An improper fraction, which really gives some people some trouble, but isn't actually too awful bad, just means you've got more than one. So if I give you the fraction 5/3, which is improper, meaning the numerator is bigger than the denominator, all that means is I've got one whole circle cut into 3 pieces, got all 3 pieces, and then I've got more than 1, which equals 1 2/3. So that's the mixed number. Mixed numbers and improper fractions are the same thing because over here, sorry, we're mirror imaged here. Over here I've got my 1, which is 3 pieces out of 3, cut into 3 pieces, have 3 pieces. And then I've got my 2/3, 2 out of 3. I add them together, I get 5/3. So really, you're never going to get away from fractions. You're never going to get to find a job or a life. There's no planet where you can go to without fractions. When you look at the pieces of what they actually mean, they're not that bad.